Hey everyone, this is Rotaract and today I have solved 200th lead question. It's a medium level problem called number of islands and I am going to explain how I understood it and how I coded it in a really easy way. So first let me explain what the problem is about. They have given a 2D grid ones and zeros here. One means land and another one zero means water. Our job is to count how many islands are in the grid. But here's a trick to understand. Islands are made of land that is connected vertically and horizontally, uh, but not diagonally. The grid is surrounded by water on the four edges. Here is an example of the grid. The grid has two islands on the top left and one in the bottom right. Okay, so how did I think about solving this? I imagine I am going cell by cell. Every time I see a one, I know I have discovered a new island. Now I have to flood that island so I don't count it again. So I thought of using DFS. It's nothing but depth first search, kind of like exploring the island completely and marking it as visited. You may have a question. How do I mark it as visited? Just simple. I just changed that 1 to a 0. So I came with this plan. Loop through every cell. If I find a 1, I will increase the island count, start DFS from there, turn all connected ones to 0. So let's get into the code. Yeah. Uh, First class solution object. First I define a class called solution and inside it a method num islands that takes a 2D list called grid. And then here if not grid return 0. This line checks if the input grid is empty or none. If it is empty, that means there are no islands, so we return 0 immediately. Here I calculate the number of rows and columns in the grid and store them in variables rows and columns. This helps us loops through the grid easily. And then island count 0. Here I initialize a variable island count to 0. This will keep track how many islands we find as we scan the grid. And here now I define a helper function inside the num islands called DFS depth first search. This function will be used to explore and mark the entire island as visited starting from the cell at row or and column C. At this line, this is the base case of the DFS. If the current cell or and C is outside, the grid boundaries or the cell contains 0. If water are already visited, then we simply return and stop exploring in this direction. And in this line, I mark the current cell as visited by changing its values from 1. That already said 1 is in land to 0 water. This prevents us from counting the same piece of land multiple times. And in these lines, 4 lines are recursively cell DFS for all the adjacent cells, down, up, right and left. This way the entire connected island is visited and marked. At this line I start scanning the entire grid with nested loops. The outer loops runs through each rows and inner loops runs through each column. At this line for I check if it contains 1, meaning it's land and not yet visited. Here if yes, I found a new island, so I increase the island count by 1, increase it by 1. Then I call the DFS function to visit all connected land cells of this islands and mark them visited. Yeah, I will finish here. I will run the code here. Yeah, the all the test case were passed. Thank you for watching.